y'all, what is going on? It is Giga here once again. I hope you had an excellent weekend league and that you survived whatever gameplay you might have had to endure. But today we're starting something new, and I think it's something that if you guys like numbers, statistics, things like that, I think you're really going to enjoy this. So thank you for clicking on the video. But without further ado, we're actually going to go ahead and get into the most common players that were used, or the most popular players that were used in this past week of FIFA. It's very much looking at the meta of the game and seeing what players people are using. Now, obviously, I can only use the sample size of my own weekend league, but if you guys want to join in and give me your data as well, I would be happy to put all of it together. I think it'd be really, really cool. But I'm going to go ahead and start with what I recorded. Yeah, what I recorded. And so part of what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at it via FUTBin, just so you guys can see the types of cards and all that stuff. So these are the top 10 most common players that I saw in this weekend league. And I'll be interested to see what you guys think about this, if you guys came up against these guys a lot, or if you came up against different people a lot. This has nothing to do with which ones are the best, it's just statistically which ones are the most common. The number 10 slot, and there are 3 groups to this, just because there's only 20 games, right? So a lot of the players end up being tied for third, second, first, whatever. But so in the third or bottom group of players that were most common, the first player that I'm going to mention is actually Thibaut Courtois, and I'm sure you guys played quite a few games against him. He's probably really, really good. He is very, very good. I actually have him in my own team right now. He's exceptional. He obviously links to certain other Real Madrid players, which you can imagine are probably on this list, if you will. But going off of that, the second person in this bottom tier group that I'm thinking of right now is actually none other than Kevin De Bruyne, of all people. Now, I think De Bruyne's one of those where some people really like the card, some people don't like the card at all. I think it just kind of depends, but at least when I've played against him, I feel like he does some bits against me, and I really like personally playing with the card. So I'm sure you guys could probably imagine why this card is so popular, especially with the Manchester City link. And to finish off this bottom kind of like third rung group, it's someone you probably might be surprised to see, but actually tied statistically, the third person in this group is Benacer, the Champions League card. He really was very cheap in the beginning of the year. Milan was not totally guaranteed to go through in the Champions League, but then when they did, he got this huge upgrade. And so because of that, along with, now there's the Leao player of the month that he links to. He also links with these other Serie A players like the Chiesa that came out. There's this Dzeko that came out too. So, the Serie A was pretty popular, and you guys probably saw it as kind of this like mid-tier level team. But this card's pretty good, and like I said, it rounded off this bottom tier of commonality of teams, of players, words that I don't know. We're going to continue on anyway. You could technically put these next 3 players in any order, but I'm going to go ahead and start with none other than Erling Haaland. I'm sure you guys were pretty sure this guy would be on the list here. It seems like everybody plays with him or plays against him. He's super, super difficult to try to catch up and beat against. Trying to catch up, you're not going to beat him. If you're in front of him, he's going to maul his way through you. As you guys know very well, especially if you're playing on PS5 or really the new gen consoles, is really what I'm getting at. He's got the lengthy characteristic, which makes him basically impossible to keep up with. Right along with this, it makes a lot of sense too, is Kyle Walker coming in 5th on that data list there. Kyle Walker's easily the best right back in the game. Again, lengthy, so he's super, super fast. He can get forward. He's not the best, but he can get forward. And at right back, he's probably just the best, or like the hardest person to get past. Every time I play against him, I'll try to do like over the top through ball on like a winger that's way out to the side, and he'll still get there before my winger who's already standing there. And then I actually mentioned this player just earlier, and this is none other. Oh, actually, I didn't. Yes, I did. Where is he? Yeah, there he is. Chiesa. He rounds off the second tier group, if you will, of players. Now, this Chiesa is the out of position Chiesa, who's a SBC. He's really pretty good. I actually use him quite a bit, and I know he links pretty well with the other Serie A, like I was just saying. But I do think that he's probably going to get phased out pretty quickly. He's explosive, which really does nothing in this game, is what I'm figuring out. I think it's really silly that explosive or controlled really is just like a negative. You'd rather just be lengthy or nothing, it seems. Unless you have 5-star skills. If you have 5-star skills, then it seems to be more applicable. But anyway, so Chiesa rounds off that next, second place group with Haaland and Walker. Surprising to see Chiesa as much as Haaland, you know what I mean? Now, I don't think that's probably correct on average over all of FIFA. But it's interesting to see at least, and I should mention that I finished 17-3 for this weekend league. I don't know if that plays any role in it, but it's more data, and data is good. On to our final two groups. So this is the group just below first place. So this is like the second place grouping. Going along with more of this Serie A idea is this center back informed Fikayo Tomori, who is just unbelievably difficult to get past. I don't understand why. And I get that he can be lengthy. You put an anchor on him and he becomes like a 90 rated center back. He keeps going up in price over and over because he's super desirable. He obviously has the English link, so he links with Walker, but then also gets this Leao link. He gets a Benacer link. He links with Theo Hernandez. He's just very meta. He's very, very meta. He's very good. And a lot of times I see him as the red champions, like weekend league champions card. I rarely see just the inform. It depends, but he's very good. Obviously, he's very popular, and so with that, we'll move on to the next one. This one is one I'm sure if you guys did not play against this card, I'm very surprised. But it's none other than Valverde, and I tried to keep track of Player of the Month versus Champions League versus whatever, and really what I was getting at is that it's Valverde. They play. He's at center mid, CDM. This is the one SBC thus far that I kind of wish I had done. I just didn't have enough coins. And so continues to be in teams over and over and over again. He locks into that like third place, second place spot. And he's super, super common with the Madrid link. And then he's just super meta. So if not one of the most meta or maybe actually the most meta center mid in the game. So I'm sure you guys have played against him. If you didn't, you're pretty lucky, I do have to say. To finish off this second place grouping now, we have none other than Joao Cancelo. Now, I'm pretty sure every single team out there has Cancelo in. At least that's what it felt like when I was playing against him. None of the teams that I played actually had this out of position Cancelo. They were all playing him at left back or right back. I actually tried him for the first time this weekend in my own squad. He's crazy. He's so good. He's not quite as solid in the back as Walker, but going forward, he's an excellent wingback. And you can move him to center mid, and he's perfect as a box-to-box midfielder. He's super, super good. I'm sure you guys played against him. Of course, he links with Haaland. He also has the Portuguese link for Ronaldo, so on and so forth. So he's meta. He's got great links, and I mean, the 88 version's 51k. So he's very, very good. He's very, very good. Before we get to the number one most common player of this weekend, I actually want to go ahead and do some honorable mentions as well. These are kind of interesting. I thought I'd throw them in here, but some of the ones that weren't quite this common, but you probably had seen at some point or another, were none other than this Park Ji-sung card. Now, there is the regular hero version, which is probably more common because it's cheaper. But this new World Cup mode has released these new World Cup heroes. And so this guy who came out this card is very, very good. I honestly don't see too much of a difference when I play against it in terms of the regular versus the upgraded. He did get a few stat boosts. Specifically, I'm looking at the defense going into 80, so he's Hullet Gang. Other than that, he's just about the same. So that's the first honorable mention. The second honorable mention is Virgil van Dijk, who I think is the best center back in the game. He is impossible to get around. We were mentioning Tomori before and so on and so forth, but Van Dijk continually just is so strong and so fast and so he's all over the place. And whenever you can't do set pieces against him, he's a set piece threat on offense. I understand why he's very common and why people like to use him. The only problem I have is that I find it rather difficult to link him. And so I think that using the Allison link or something like that is probably the way to go if you want to use Van Dijk. And like you now can tell, data says that he's very, very popular. You can even see on Futbin, he's got 4 million games already. Very, very good. And then the final one that I thought was probably the most surprising player that I found that was relatively common. I think he was in the group below the last one that I'm mentioning today. So it wasn't uncommon, but just averagely common. in this weekend league, and I hadn't seen before, was none other than N'Golo Kante. And so, at least in the beginning of the game, I really hadn't seen him much at all. Especially, I think it's because he's got this 72 pace. I don't believe he can become lengthy, no, but he can become explosive. So really, people probably just put a shadow on him, give him 80 pace, and then they say, good luck. He moves very quickly on the ball. His 93 defending with the shadow certainly, at least what I feel like, it certainly makes it so that his interceptions, like his awareness of where to be, is exceptional. And so he's no pushover. He's no pushover this year. And I thought he kind of would be, especially compared to how amazing he was the last couple of years. But he's still pretty good. He's really, you should try him. Other people have been. And so, he's our final number one most popular, and you probably won't be surprised by this, most popular card in the entire weekend league, at least for my small data set, was none other than Ferland Mendy. And I'm sure you guys, if you hadn't thought of this card already, you're probably like, oh, yeah. This card is, I think it just smacks down number one place when it comes to left backs, except for maybe Cancelo, or maybe Hernandez, if you really want to go that route. He's really cheap. He's got the 5-star weak foot. He knows how to get back on defense. Can he be lengthy too? He can be with an architect. So with 92 pace, excellent passing, and excellent physical, he's just nuts, right? He's got the French link, so he can link to Mbappe, he can link to Varane, he can link to almost any of the, big name cards out there, because a lot of them are French. Obviously got the Madrid link, so you think of Militao, you think of, Courtois. We were even talking about Valverde earlier. And then when Benzema was more popular, maybe a couple weeks ago, he was the go-to person. Now I just think he fits into people's teams, and he still does the job. He's excellent, even at 83 rated. So that is the most common or most typical 10 players that I saw through Weekend League. I'd be curious to know who you guys saw. And if you guys want to, go ahead and put them in the, who you thought you saw the most, or even keep track this coming week about the most common players that you see in Weekend League, or even division rivals. It's up to you. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to be trying to do this every week. I think it's fun getting data like this. It's fun to share. It's fun to see what other people get, things like that, especially as these new cards come out. Especially as these new cards come out. Sure, maybe. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Have a good week. I'll see you next time. Take care.